Reviews are, of course, Reviews are, of course, a subjective thing. What I like might not be what you like. And with those wise words in mind, let's take a look at Kingdomino Duel. My name's Nick from Board Deck and Dice, and I'm reviewing this game for Zatu, with many thanks to Coiledspring Games for sending this review copy out. Kingdomino Duel is a roll and write game based on the domino laying game or tile laying game of the same name, but without the duel in it. So a different name, you might say. In the box you will get a big old score sheet, some rules, 4 chunky dice and 2 pencils. The game is essentially a riff on its older version. You will be using the dice to make domino sets, which you will then write onto the pad to score large areas. If they ever have a crown or a cross in them, that is what you're going to score. So your score will be the amount of crosses you have in an area of the same type of shields multiplied by how large that area is. In the base Kingdomino, this was achieved through drafting domino-like tiles and placing them into your kingdom with certain rules. Here the rules for placing stay the same, but it's slightly abstracted out as you have a choice on how to align your dominoes. Let's take a look at what I mean. To set up the game, each player will take a blank sheet, and one of the other sheets, which can be a used one from a previous game, will be turned over for special powers, which we'll look at in a minute. Player A will take the dice and roll them, and then they will choose one of these dice. Each dice has a shield and potentially a crown or a cross on it, and down here we see the rarity or the spread. So the one at the top is plentiful but doesn't have many crosses, so harder to score, but you're likely to get more of those in a game. Whereas down the bottom here, these two are rarer, but they often come with double crosses or crowns. So player A, who rolled the dice, will choose one. Let's say they're going to choose this one because it's the only one with scoring potential at the minute. Player 2 will then choose 2, and they will choose those 2, leaving player 1 with this single one. Now, we treat this like a single domino. So we're going to place it onto our player board or paper, notepad, forming the normal domino rules, which means, say for example I had this here, I could play this domino here because one of them is a dot. So I could play it anywhere around there. I could even play the dot there and then the 2 dots there because one matches like normal domino rules. However, because I'm just starting, I can use the castle as a wild. So let's say I put a dot there and 2 dots there, and then I mark off the X. My opponent is doing the same thing, and then we look to the power sheet. Now, whenever you take a domino without a cross on, you get to mark off your side of the power sheet. So I would mark off this one, and my opponent would mark off 2 of these. If you are the first person to get to the red square, you will unlock these powers, which give you rule-breaking things, like choosing both your dice at the same time, splitting your dominoes, ignoring the normal domino matching rules, and so on and so forth. Only one player can unlock each of these abilities. Also, at any point in the game after you've selected your domino, you can colour in the top of the castle to place a cross on either one of the dice that you've selected. You will play like that until you have both either filled or cannot put any more dice onto the board, and then you will score up each region. And the way you do that is you count the number of squares it takes up multiplied by the crosses. So if later on I've got another 2 here and I've got some 1s up here, for example, this 2 would score 1, 2 times 2, 4 points. So I'd just write the 4 points in there. This one, however, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's only got 1 cross, so that scores 6 points. You do that for all of them. There's some other points available as well from the special powers, and the player with the highest score wins. So Kingdomino Duel is a very quick to learn and easy game. In fact, I would say the scoring on this one is slightly easier to understand than it is in the base Kingdomino, because you're kind of writing on the crowns. In the base Kingdomino, despite that also being relatively easy, people perhaps who haven't played games before often struggled when I was teaching, perhaps it's me, with the how to score. So this really is an easier game to teach, but it only plays 2 players. And also, whereas in the base Kingdomino, your gameplay had the luck of the draw for sure, but you could make plans around that. You had a sheet on the page on the back of the rules that told you how many of each tile were in the game, and though some were removed, you knew that there was a good chance of what was coming up, and also you could barter for position to choose the first domino from the next set of 4. Here it's much more done much more on a turn basis. You take these beautiful chunky dice. They're beautiful because they're chunky. I'll talk about what's on them in a minute. And you're choosing the first one, which means there's much more how should we say, take that. There's much more potential to screw the other player over, because you can just do what we call hate draft and take one of the dice that you think the other player wants. And yes, this was possible in Kingdomino. You could take a tile that someone else was desperate for, but often in that game it was more important to get what you wanted or needed next. In Kingdomino Duel, I found with the focus on 2 players, the potential of just taking the best dice, whether you need it or not, is a lot higher. You really feel like you can't let your opponent get that, because there's only one opponent. In Kingdomino Duel, in Kingdomino base game, there's more opponents, so that is less direct. You can rely on other people to do that for you, rather than you taking all the direct action against people. So that is a big difference. I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad difference. It really depends on your play style. The one really negative thing I will say about this game is, let me just show you this completed sheet here. Now, a big attraction to the base Kingdomino is the art, the beautiful nature. You're building something beautiful. Here, this is abstracted out into these shields, which, although it is clear to see which ones are which, makes for a really bizarre choice. There have been many games, roll and write games recently, where you are drawing things and not just filling in a grid. And in Railroad Ink, you wouldn't accuse Railroad Ink of being particularly beautiful, but at least you're drawing what the theme of the game is. You're drawing railroads, you're drawing roads. Rolling Ranch from Thundergriff Games, you have a choice to actually draw the animals as you want to draw them, or represent them in shapes. And I wish something like that had been done here in Kingdomino Duel, because there's no doubt that looking at this is not a pretty thing. However, the gameplay is fast, the game is easy to teach, the game is full of decisions. Yes, sometimes those decisions are going to be forced by your opponent, but the more you play, the more you realise when you can let go of one of the better dice and when you might need to snatch it up. The most genius part of this game, in my opinion, is the addition of these powers, which really encourages you to think about whether you want to take the crosses or not. Because although crosses score you points, essentially, not taking them gives you access to potentially blag a few of these, and these can be really, really powerful. Not having to match your dominoes is hugely powerful. Being able to play your dominoes separately is massive, especially in the late game when you realise you've planned wrong and you're going to have odd spaces left. Being able to choose both dice on the first turn is great. So these are well worth fighting over and give you something else to think of other than just the crowns or crosses on the dice. Without this, I don't think I would have enjoyed Kingdomino Duel as much as I did. But with these powers and the additional one on the spire of the castle, it makes Kingdomino Duel a great game. Is it as great as Kingdomino? Well, that's down to you. Do you prefer luck in your games? Do you prefer rolling the dice and then choosing between your own needs more than the against screwing over the other person? Or do you like a drafting game where you're choosing, your hard decision is, do I want this really good tile now at the expense of me choosing last next time, or do I risk it for last time? If you are bothered by art and the ability to create something beautiful, unfortunately Kingdomino Duel doesn't give you that ability, but it does give you a quick, portable, small game that can be played pretty much anywhere. Well, not underwater, granted, or in the snow, but I did say pretty much, so back off. That gives you the feel of Kingdomino without the setup and the spread of tiles. If you are into your roll and write games, this would definitely be one of my preferred ones if it didn't have the sticking point for me of the art. If I'm going just mechanically, I think this is one of the better roll and writes. Railroad Ink and Welcome To are still my top, probably Boomerang as well. But compared to something like Ganshon Clever, Nokmal, I prefer this style. So hopefully that will give you enough information to make your decision. Thanks very much for watching another Zatu review. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more content, and remember to check us out on Facebook as we do a ton of Facebook Live content too. Thanks very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Magnets.